Hello everyone, welcome back to an exciting new series here on Not Morgan Hasn't Seen TV, but Jeannine Hasn't Seen TV here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Do subscribe, ding your notification bell. I say welcome back to a new series. Does that even make sense, Jeannine, to start this particular one today? I think it does, because you know we chop and change over here. We alternate every Monday here on the YouTube channel, and now in audio only form as well. Of course, you may be listening to this on the typical It's a Wonderful Podcast feed as well, wherever you get your podcasts. Do make sure to subscribe wherever you are listening as well, of course. Leave your comments on Spotify and rate and reviews and all that good stuff, because I am thoroughly excited to do this. It's so rare that I get to have the power in this sense, as you often refer to it as, Jim, the power to hold more knowledge over something for the long term than you have, and we're in that realm at the moment.
Yes, new territory for sure.
New territory. We are diving into Doctor Who. That is this series. That is what we're doing now. We will preface all this, I think, for the next maybe 10 minutes. We'll introduce the series, what we're going to be getting into, a little background on Doctor Who. Obviously, I think we assume, if you are here watching and listening to diving into Doctor Who, you probably know a little bit about Doctor Who, but you might not know that much about Doctor Who. So really, I think the main question to ask, Jeannine, is, are you excited to dive into Doctor Who? And ultimately, what do you already know about Doctor Who? I know the answer to this question, but does everybody else?
Yes, I am very excited to dive into Doctor Who. I have a bit of familiarity with Doctor Who. I did watch this whole first season with the 9th Doctor in the past, but it's been several years since I've seen it. And I haven't really watched past that. I fell very much in love with Eccleston's Doctor, and I did not want to say goodbye to him. So I think I went maybe 2 episodes into Tennant before I kind of stopped watching it. Not because I didn't like it, but I just, was still stuck in, that first season. And I had plans to go back to it and continue watching, but then, things and time and wibbledy wobbledy timey-wimey things got in the way.
Very nice.
I never went back. So I'm really excited to finally get to rewatch this season that I haven't seen in forever, because I remember loving it so much, and diving into the other Doctors to come. So
yes. I like how you use wibbledy wobbledy timey wimey, because that is a Tennant, that is a 10th Doctor thing to say as well. So considering you haven't really watched any 10th Doctor, I like that you're using that. I am a big fan of this particular era of Doctor Who. I would say, obviously, Doctor Who is this behemoth of television. It is bigger than life, really. Doctor Who, as far as television is concerned, it's probably one of the few things I'm proud of Britain for. Doctor Who, to be honest with you, given that it's been around since 1963. And he's still going, is maddeningly impressive. Obviously, it had its break from, I think, 1989 when it was originally cancelled. There was the TV movie in 1996 with the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann, and then it came back for the revival, NuWho, as people often call it, and I think we will continue to refer to it as over the course of diving into Doctor Who, because NuWho is what we are focusing on here on diving into Doctor Who. I don't think we were quite ready for classic Who
Yeah, it's a
Even
lot.
though that is technically the beginning, it is a
Yes.
totally different style of
Yeah.
television, a different style of story. I think NuWho, given its funny sort of unique position of being both an introduction and a reintroduction to the
Yeah.
same thing, it's a great place for anybody to start if they want to watch Doctor Who. You don't have to go back to the first Doctor. I myself haven't really delved into classic Who nearly at all,
Yeah.
and really am more of a new Who fan, I suppose.
Yeah.
Although definitely I wouldn't call myself a super fan myself. I've not even seen all of New Who. There is just a particular time, the ninth, 10th, 11th Doctors that I
Yeah.
am rather familiar with, very much, very fond of. And that is obviously where we're starting,
Yeah.
diving into Doctor Who today, right at the beginning of the 2005 revival, the start of New Who. It is referred to as season 1 anyway, because it
Yeah.
might be a new TV show, but it might be a continuation of the same TV show. If you try and logic Doctor Who, it just gets messy,
Yeah, it
and
gets
you don't
tricky.
need
Yeah.
to do it. Never ever logic anything to do with Doctor Who. It just will not make sense anymore.
Yeah.
There are other things to contend with in Doctor Who. There are other things to enjoy.
Yes.
Not the intricacies of production, I suppose, which can get very messy. And, there's a reason the ninth Doctor is only around for one season. And it's because Eccleston famously, did not get on with the production team and
Mm.
refuses to return in visual form until producers are sacked, quite frankly. This is what he says. And I love Eccleston for doing this. Obviously, we'll speak more about his portrayal of the Doctor as we go through this first season. But I've always loved his stance because he does so many of the audio dramas. Doctor Who's big in the audio drama
Oh,
market as
okay.
well. Big Finish Productions is who creates all those. There are countless. I've no idea how many there are with all various incarnations of
Oh,
the Doctor.
wow. Okay.
And Eccleston has done quite a number of
Okay.
those.
I
So,
like that.
because they are not, he loves Doctor Who, he loves being the Doctor, but he
Yes, but
frankly
just the
hates the
people.
producers of the
Yeah.
television show.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't come back to that. And I've always respected
Mhm.
him for his stance, as sad as it may be, and as certainly sad as it may be once we start getting towards the back end of season 1
Yeah.
and realizing that there is no more Christopher Eccleston after this
Mm,
first season
yeah.
as the Ninth Doctor. But I suppose let's get straight into it, really.
Yes.
Season 1, episode 1 is called Rose
Rose.
because the companion is always more important than the Doctor, apparently. I think that's such a significant part of what Rose, this pilot episode, this
Yeah.
first episode, does. As a synopsis, we have: when Rose Tyler meets a mysterious stranger called the Doctor, her life will never be the same again. Soon she realizes that her mum, her boyfriend, and the whole of Earth are in danger. The only hope for salvation lies inside a strange blue box. And I think that's such an important thing to remember as
Yeah.
well about Doctor Who, is that it's always about saving, salvation, and positivity, not ever
Yes.
fighting, really, which is, I think, quite unique in the world of sci-fi. It's far more philosophically aligned with Star Trek, I think, than, on an
Yes.
American
It's
level.
always this positive mission. Yeah.
Yeah, than anything else. But Rose, first thoughts, Jeannine. Obviously, they're not. It's not your first time watching, but after
Yes.
so many years, and to be honest, quite so many years for me since I've watched this first season as well. What do we think of Rose, this opening to this first season?
I really love Rose, and I think was also a fearful thing for me, kind of continuing on because I knew we were gonna have to say goodbye to her too, and I was like, I don't
Yeah,
know if I can take that because I really love this character. And you say the companions are kind of more important than the doctors, and I think it might feel that way because the companion is the audience perspective. It's why I've always loved characters like Winston from Ghostbusters because people think, oh, he's a lame character, but he is us. Like, I feel like that's an important job to have in a narrative to be the audience perspective. And so we can put ourselves in those shoes and see the awe and wonder in what is happening in this world as if we were there too. And so it makes sense for our character who knows what's going on to have someone to explain it to so it doesn't feel like clunky exposition. It feels like he's bringing us into the story. So I
yeah,
think she is a great vessel for that. She feels like a really relatable person, and even just kind of the switch she makes at the end of this episode to decide to go with him because she initially says no, and then just kind of after taking a beat and thinking about it, she decides to take this leap, and it's such an awesome kind of inspirational thing, and you could kind of equate that to anything in your life, to just take a chance on something because it's going to change your life forever.
yeah.
So yeah, she played into all of those things really well, and I really love Rose. So
I think it's a funny old episode. I really do. I think because it is such a great introduction
mhm,
into this particular style of
yeah,
Doctor Who and this world of Doctor Who. It doesn't beat you over the head with
no,
any exposition at all. I think it's wonderfully subtle, stunningly 2005
yeah,
in its style,
look,
in
it's
its
effects, yeah,
visual,
yeah,
in its attitude. It's shot in this really oversaturated way. I think that's
yeah.
something very, very
There's like a
evident about.
diffuse glow kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very evident. I think, particularly from my recollection, season 1 and 2
Mhm.
of of this era. It's really, really oversaturated.
Yeah,
Probably before they start using kind of full HD, as we
yeah,
get later on, which I think those later seasons do very much benefit from the use of full HD. But there's a certain funny charm to
yeah,
the maybe cute cheapness of Doctor Who,
yeah.
because I think that's something
It's
you have to.
endearing.
It is
Yeah,
endearing. It's something you have to take into account as well. Is that, and I think it becomes more evident once we get into talking about the second episode of the season
yeah,
as well, the end of the world. But Doctor Who was always a quite cheap, obviously BBC television
yeah,
production. Its detractors complained about it because some of the villains, some of the monsters, some of the aliens looked ridiculous as just a man wrapped up in tinfoil and things like
yeah,
that. So we have to, I think, remember that while while we can allow ourselves to be taken out of something through not particularly wonderful special effects, and God
yeah,
knows these 2 episodes have some not particularly aged
yeah.
well special effects. That's not the point of why
No.
we're fond of these 2 episodes. That's not the point of why we're fond of this era of Doctor Who. It is what they represent, I suppose. It's the ambition to use them, and it's what they represent. It's the stories
Mhm.
themselves, it's the
Yeah,
characters themselves, it's the ideas themselves that we really like about this. And that's why I think this is such a great introduction, because it throws us right into the life of Rose Tyler first and foremost
Mhm.
before anything else. She's just
Anything
going
else, yeah.
about her day.
Or
It's dynamic. You know, we
mhm.
see her at work. It's perfectly normal day, but it's
Yeah.
exciting. Like I said, it's dynamic,
Yeah.
and then it slows down a little bit, and it starts to get a bit creepy. The
Yeah.
doctor turns up out of nowhere in a wonderful character introduction of just grabbing her
Yes.
hand, turning to the camera, run, and then she just goes. It's a
Yeah.
phenomenal doctor introduction. And I think it blends everything that Doctor Who should blend together really, really well. And
Yeah.
again, it is just, to my mind, such an impressive introduction. Doctor Who, in my mind, should always be, I suppose, overarchingly, it should always be a mix of silliness,
Yeah.
intelligence, and I mean, yeah, silliness and intelligence. If it's silly and
Any
intelligent,
um,
an emotion, yeah, sure. But if it, it needs to be smart enough that everybody, all adults, can enjoy it and appreciate the cleverness of the
mhm.
sci-fi ideas going on. But it does 100% need to be silly enough for children as well, because
Yeah.
this very much is there for kids. It was everywhere in
Yeah.
2005, Doctor Who. And this was when I was a kid. You couldn't move for kids being advertised Doctor Who. Watch
Yeah.
Doctor Who. Look, everybody wants to watch Doctor Who. It also, I should say, always wants to be scary as
Oh,
well.
yeah. This episode was
Silly,
very creepy.
smart, and scary. Those are the
Yeah.
the three S's of Doctor Who we will refer to them
Yeah.
as, and it
Because
blends
every
all of them really well.
Yes. I mean, I think every episode, if I recall, particularly even this one, they set up some really big stakes. So it has to get a little bit scary. And you're right. I think it does combine all those elements really well. The silly aspects, the kind of adventure, fun, campy, silly things, and kind of the scary, dire situation stakes of it
Yeah.
all. So yeah, I think that makes for really well-paced, well fleshed out episodes where you're getting everything you want, and all at the right time for your brain to kind of process. So
Yeah. Now, obviously, this first episode is first and foremost interested in allowing you, the viewer, to meet these characters.
Mhm.
Obviously, for many people, for the first time. If you hadn't watched, if you weren't a Doctor Who fan
Yeah.
from decades ago, ultimately at this point. Um, how do you feel it works as that introduction, and do you feel that maybe the story of the episode itself, because it obviously needs a villain, and it does have
Yeah.
a villain, the Autons, the living plastic, this
Yeah.
idea
Mhm.
of mannequins coming to life, a mannequin plastic invasion, uh,
Yes, to feed off
which
humans because their planet has died. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I think it works story-wise. The establishing of this villain, giving a reason for why they're here, and it also kind of establishing the bigger picture of kind of this war that took out a bunch of other worlds and planets, and
yeah,
we get that little bit of a tease that Doctor Who had something to do with the loss of these planets, and so that's why they're coming here to find a planet to feed off of. So we're getting not only just kind of the threat to this world, we're getting a bigger picture of, the conflicts that we might get down the line and where kind of Doctor Who fits into all of that. So it sets up this kind
yeah,
of intrigue of like, okay, what's up with this guy? What did he do? That's like kind of this trickle down effect. I also love that we get to see Rose kind of, establish herself as a capable companion before she actually is one. So, when they're in the restaurant and her boyfriend has been taken over by the plastics, and Doctor Who is fighting him and all the other patrons are kind of freaking out, Rose hesitated to pull the fire alarm to get everybody out. She's the one who ultimately rescues the Doctor when he's kind of uh, faced with the big bad and is kind of getting captured. She's the one
Yeah.
who discovers what object there is actually the transmitter. So she's doing a lot to pull this weight and help him before she
Without
even kind
knowing
of
it.
yes, yes, and before she really even knows kind of how deep this goes. And before she's even an official companion, she's showing how capable she is and how fast she can think, and her willingness to jump in there, because even when she kind of goes in there to save him and swinging on that chain, her boyfriend's telling her not to do it, leave it alone, this whole kind of thing, but she's like, no, I have to help this person. So she's also expressing kind of the spirit of the Doctors kind of want to help everybody and do
Yeah.
good. So I love that they established all of these elements about her before she's even kind of officially involved with the Doctor.
I think that idea that you've just brought up, the Doctor's need to help everyone, is particularly significant for the Ninth Doctor as well, which, we do get that little tease, we do get that little tiny mention of the Time War by the
Yeah.
end of this episode that obviously the Doctor has just gone through. I say obviously, it's not obvious yet, but that exposition is granted to us over the course of this season,
Yeah.
and becomes very clear. But if we didn't know already, the Ninth Doctor is the incarnation of the Doctor that comes directly after the Time War fought between the Time Lords, the Doctor's people, and the Daleks. And we'll be getting the Daleks about
Yes.
halfway through the season, which is
Yeah.
very exciting. I'm fairly certain everybody knows what a Dalek is, and I don't think I need to explain what a Dalek is.
Yeah.
But I think that's my personal favourite moment of this episode in rewatching it again. It is the pleading from the Doctor to the kind of living consciousness of this vat of molten plastic that
Yeah.
is the center of of the
This
plastic invasion
invasion.
going on in this
Yeah.
movie, in this episode. Because the plastic is communicating with the Doctor. You destroyed, our world was destroyed in the war, and the Doctor obviously having so much PTSD from the
Yeah.
Time War, pleading with this, it wasn't my fault. I
Yes, I
couldn't
couldn't
help you. I
save.
couldn't
Yeah,
stop
I
it.
couldn't save
It was,
anybody's planet. Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't even save my own planet. I couldn't save anything. It's
Yeah.
awful, and he feels the weight of that. That's why I
Mhm.
think Eccleston's particularly good casting, because he's very heavy as an
Yeah.
actor.
Mhm.
Everything that Eccleston has ever done that isn't Doctor Who has been ridiculously dramatic, heavy stuff.
Yes, yes, which is why I always appreciated how light and loving and emotional he is in a lot of these episodes, and why I fell in love with him, because I always saw him as this kind of harsh, villainous kind of actor. So to see him
Yeah,
tap into being a little bit silly, a little bit playful, and incredibly emotional and emotive in that way, that was something I had never seen from him. And the fact that he was
yeah.
so convincing with that, I think, is what made me love him so much and didn't want to let go.
I think that's the great thing, I think, about the Ninth Doctor, and you do get it immediately in this episode. His willingness to be incredibly goofy, because the Doctor needs, to a degree, to be a bit goofy.
Yes.
But his willingness to be deathly serious when he needs to be, and Eccleston's ability to perform that deathly seriousness,
Yeah.
um, and emotional weight that he clearly does even for 2 minutes at the end of this episode, when we're getting that intrigue of, wait, a war? What war? What's happened just
Yeah.
before we've met the Doctor here?
Yeah.
We'll obviously get that information fed to us fairly slowly, and I think wonderfully structurally. But he's just, it's again, it's such a good blend of who the Doctor is as a character. And Eccleston also has that, or Eccleston's Doctor, I suppose, has that relatability, to use a word I don't love using a lot. He feels like a quote unquote normal human, which the Doctor doesn't need to feel like a normal
No.
human. I think different styles, different eras of the show can do different
Yeah.
things with the Doctor. But fundamentally, I think what this first, we call it Russell T Davies era, Russell T Davies being the showrunner of this time for the first 4
Mhm.
seasons before Stephen Moffat would take over. A real fundamental of that era is the viewer kind of seeing the humanity within the Doctor.
Yeah.
And Eccleston's so great at giving us that, because he just feels like a regular dude.
Yeah.
And, who's capable of these great things, rather than a great creature who is learning to be kind of a bit
More
more
human.
regular.
Yeah.
And I think when eventually we get onto the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, I think that is almost that complete opposite, where Matt Smith's Doctor feels like this kind of goofy, weird alien creature who is trying to be more human.
More human. Okay.
And, the 9th Doctor here is a very, very human Doctor who has to remind himself, I think, sometimes just how capable he is, just how great he is, not worry about the consequences of what he's doing, because he's doing it with the right intentions. And
Yeah.
that all comes from, obviously, the PTSD from the Time War that he's just been through. He doesn't
Yes.
want
Well,
to showcase his power because he knows what it's just done.
yes.
The greater good, supposedly.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that, because when we delve into that in second episode, the Doctor does have a bit of a kind of darker sensibility and a kind of
He does.
vengeful spirit by the end of it. That Rose even kind of tries to kind of rein in a little bit, but
Yeah.
he's so hurt by something that happens that he kind of goes where I wouldn't have expected him to go. So,
He
yeah,
has the
I
ability
like
to get power mad sometimes. I think once we get
exactly.
into the 10th Doctor, I think David Tennant's first incarnation of the Doctor is very good at exploring just how far the Doctor is capable of going, and just how potentially egotistical the Doctor can be about his own
Okay.
abilities.
Okay, okay.
And I feel
Yes,
Eccleston may, as you said, in the second episode, he may tap into it a little bit, but he's still too traumatized to fully
yeah,
go there.
yes, and I think that also plays into him feeling more human, is the fact that he, can have these kind of crises of conscience and 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 act on emotional things instead of kind of being more rational.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's a really interesting, performer in terms of, uh, you know, feeling like he could only do something dark and dramatic, but here getting to just play around and feel more human, uh,
Yeah.
than actual alien as he's supposed to be.
So I think we are in agreement. We enjoy this as an
Yes.
introduction to
Yes.
this incarnation of the Doctor. We enjoy it very much as an introduction to Rose Tyler, who you
Yes.
are, yes, already familiar with. So there's no kind
Yes.
of new ground to cover there for yourself.
Yeah.
Personally, story-wise, villain-wise, do you like the Autons as a villain? Are they scary? They're a little bit
I mean,
zombie-ish.
yes, I mean, mannequins in general are kind of can play into really creepy. I mean, like creepy doll, creepy like ventriloquist dummy, like
Yeah,
creepy. And like the part where they all kind of become animated and, start going after people and breaking through glass, all of that stuff is very scary. So, as a horror person, I was into all of that. I love the kind of
very
idea
good.
of plastic kind of coming alive. Even when her boyfriend, he gets taken over and becomes like this creepy plastic robot thing,
Yeah.
was creepy as well. So I loved all of that. And I'm a fan of that. I've recently delved into supernatural, or not supernatural, Smallville for the first time.
Okay.
So I've been watching Smallville, and it just reminded, like, I think maybe a year or two ago, I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer for
Okay.
the first time. So I realize I am a fan of that kind of monster of the week format. So,
Yeah. Which
you know,
Doctor Who, I mean, very much is.
yeah, yeah,
Or this era's Doctor Who kind of very much is, with that overarching idea that every season has.
yeah.
But it is obviously very much Monster of the Week, really,
Yes, so this
which can
monster
be a
was, I
great
think,
thing.
a fun one and a creepy one, so I was into it.
Should say as well, there's plenty of two-parters and even three-parters in this era
Oh,
of Doctor Who as well, which I do like. In fact, we're getting a two-parter starting in our next episode of diving into Doctor Who. Episode 4 of this season is
okay,
the start of a two-parter. So,
okay.
they don't waste much time in getting us to a formula they
Yeah,
enjoy. I think in terms of production, the investigation aspect of this episode as well. Obviously, Rose going to that dude's
kinda conspiracy
house,
guy, yeah.
conspiracy. I think that's really a really interesting way again to have that in a first episode.
Yeah, to
Something
have
like
somebody
that
who kind
is
of,
so
she's
interesting.
yeah, because she wants answers. She goes to look him up online and finds this guy who's been kind of searching for him, has these images of him with not so great Photoshop, but, we're just
Yeah,
going with it.
it's the point. It is. We don't have to care about the effect of
No.
it. It's what that effect means. It's what it
No,
signifies.
yes, what it signifies for the story. So, yeah, it's interesting to have a character like that who can kind of give this insight, of what they kind of know and suspect about him, and maybe have her a little bit fearful of him before she sees him again. Because this is after
Yeah,
she's run into him, she's talked to him a little bit, he kind of disappears, and now she's like wants to know more. And so she's hearing
yeah,
kind of the worst things about, what this guy speculates about him. So does she need to be afraid of him? So I like that,
yeah,
she has to kind of contend with what she thinks of him. And then even afterwards, when her boyfriend gets taken over and they're sitting at the restaurant talking, she's even saying, I think he's a good guy. I don't think he's bad like that
yeah,
man is saying. So she's able to kind of come to her own conclusions despite even hearing somebody who has all this evidence kind of say the worst things about him, but she can kind of see for herself the good in him
yeah,
immediately. So I love that too.
yeah, definitely. And then I suppose lastly, to do with this first episode, Rose. I mean, we've mentioned him several times, but Mickey, Rosie's
Oh yeah.
boyfriend, he's a a fairly consistent character in this, in Rosie's run as a companion.
Hmm.
Do we like him from this episode? Are we
um
interested in his kind of silly goofiness? We don't like the actor anymore. He's
oh
done some bad things, but
oh
we'll
no,
as a
the
character.
character. Okay, yeah. I mean, he serves his purpose. I do recall that he comes back later down the line and kind of becomes
Yeah,
a part of like a little team dynamic that
little
happens.
bit,
Uh,
little bit, yeah,
yes, and I do remember liking those episodes because there's another character that comes in that I do end up really loving as well, And it almost, I think, because it almost felt like a love triangle situation with
Yes, I know who you're referring to, and
yes,
we maybe don't love
like
that
him
actor
either.
anymore
Oh no,
either.
damn it.
Um,
Um, so yeah, I think I remember like the four of them ultimately kind of coming together to kind of fight some kind of big thing later down the line. I
yeah,
don't really have a memory of context for that, but I remember really loving that he came back and he's kind of, despite how he feels about her and her kind of being devoted to what she needs to do with the doctor, he's still there to kind of be a support. So I remember
yeah.
loving that kind of dynamic with him. So,
Mickey is a very stupid character to begin with, who develops a really interesting, quite strong little arc
okay.
in his run as a character, and I've always kind of liked that because he really does start, and
He's
the
really
performance, I
dopey.
suppose, as well in this episode is really, really kind of exaggerated and
Yes,
ridiculous.
and really goofy, he's falling down, he's gotta get rescued, then he's gotta play, like, this plasticky robot version of himself, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then Jackie Tyler, Rosie's mother,
Oh,
who
yeah?
is arguably more annoying, but also endearing in that
Yes, like,
odd
great
little
comic
balancing
relief
way.
as her yeah, like, when, ultimately after that first encounter with the doctor where her job basically like that whole department store blows up,
Yeah.
so she doesn't have a job anymore, so her mom kind of just milking it for all it's worth and kind of playing her daughter as the celebrity who survived this whole situation, but then also berating her daughter like, you don't have to get up early, you don't got a job, you don't got no job to go to kind of thing. When the doctor does come to her house and she kind of tries to flirt with him and he blows her off and she just
Yes.
like makes a face like, like yeah, she's very funny. So I enjoy kind of the little moments with her adding to kind of the comic relief of the episode as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we'll see plenty more of Jackie Tyler, won't we? And her very crazy reactions to things.
Yes.
Um, I do love that scene actually of the Doctor in Rosie's flat when he's kind of seeing himself as that version for the first time as well. He looks in the mirror and kind of waggles his big ears
Yeah, yeah.
and says, "Oh well, could have turned out worse."
A lot worse than
Um,
this.
starts obviously one of the Autons arms is alive and he starts strangling him and it's a little
Yeah.
bit silly and a little bit
Yeah.
over the top,
Yeah.
but it works.
It does work. It all works.
It's showing the Ninth Doctor's willingness to be a little bit goofy and want
Yeah.
to be a little bit goofy
Yeah.
right at the start, and I've always really liked that.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it's a great first episode and a wild change now into the second episode of the
Yeah.
season, which is episode 2 of season 1,
Yeah.
The End of the World, which structurally, as far as a season of television goes, to have such a grounded intro, like to the
Yeah.
point where even your villain is an animate object. It is plastic. It is something that everybody comes
Every
into
use
contact with every
yes,
day.
every day. Yeah.
To have this second episode go to the year 5 billion years in the future, or whatever they refer to
Yeah.
it as, like
Yeah.
5/Apple/77 million
Mm,
/X, which is 5 billion years in the future. It's an easier way of
yeah.
putting it. And the destruction of Earth because the
Yeah.
sun has
Fun.
expanded.
Yeah.
It's this mad extreme to go to in the next
Yeah.
episode. And it is purely there as a spectacle for the BBC to show, oh, look at the budget we have for Doctor
Yeah,
Who.
look what we can do, and it's also kind of a big kind of culture shock for Rose because we went from this grounded episode, she decides, "I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna go on this mission with the Doctor, so what am I
Yes.
in for?" and we immediately kind of jump right into, her agreeing to go with him, and now we're like in it. He asks her where she wants to go. He kind of pushes her, well, no, take it a little bit further. Why don't you take it a little bit
Yeah.
further, and they go that far into the future. So now it has to be this big shock of the extreme of what she's gotten herself into.
Yeah.
So we're seeing all kind of the crazy aliens and this like kind of lush location and this premise of all of these people coming, or aliens coming together to view the end of the earth, for entertainment purposes. So
Yeah.
it's essentially kind of like a viewing party with all these kind of extreme characters. So yeah, it ends up being kind of this big change for her right off the bat, which I think is really
Yeah.
fun.
For 45 minutes, it is such an interesting little exploration of humanity and classism and
Yeah,
the super rich doing crazy things because
yeah,
they're not really thinking about even what they're doing. It's just
yeah,
doing something and not thinking about the consequences, not thinking about all the you know, little people
yeah,
involved.
that
And
are gonna die because of this, but like, oh, it's gonna end anyway. So, we're
yeah,
elite, so we can watch this happen for entertainment and not think about all the people who are gonna just be gone.
and forces Rose immediately to come to terms with her own mortality, with everybody
Mhm.
else's mortality, with
Yeah,
her own humanity, but just to think a bit more deeply philosophical about, because the Doctor says it, I think, twice at the beginning and the end of this second episode. You humans, you all think it's always going to last, cars and concrete and people, but it's not.
yeah.
Everything has its time, and everything comes to an end. Everything dies, and it's a really miserable, morbid thought.
Yes,
But you've got
but
to
it comes
realize the
back
Doctor's just been
around.
in a war. The
Yeah.
Doctor's just been in a war, and we
Mhm.
get
Lost
more
his
of,
planet. Yeah,
yeah, we get more of a exploration
yeah.
into
How
what
much that affects him.
happened,
Yeah,
how much it affects him, and what happened directly to him. This is the episode where he tells Rose, I was in a war and we lost. I'm the last of the Time Lords. There's no one else anymore. So now I just travel around. It was horrific.
yeah,
And in that little speech we get at the end of this episode, we realise that, okay, this is an all-powerful being now. If we didn't know that already, if this was
yeah,
people being totally, totally new to Doctor Who,
yeah,
we now get that sense. But we also get that sense that he is devastated from what he has just come from,
yeah,
and that he does actively, first and foremost, always want to help the good people.
yeah,
And that is so significantly important
yeah,
for the Doctor as well, and for Doctor Who as a show to promote that. It's always promoted that. I mean, it started off way back in 1963 as more of a kind of educational show than anything
yeah,
else, and it was going through history with this all-knowing, wise, alien,
yeah,
um, and the companions going, "Oh, Doctor, what's this?" And the Doctor going, "Oh, well, it's this."
yeah.
And that was the
And
show.
explaining it and
Um,
explaining history in this kind of fun way. Yeah.
yeah. Since then, obviously, it's become more, far more sci-fi, and far more philosophical sci-fi and things like that. And
Yes, and I think there are gonna be episodes that actually go into, like, real historical things, and of course,
well,
there'll
funny
be
you should say that. Absolutely, absolutely. There is the celebrity historical, we refer to them as in the Doctor Who world, when we will go back in history and we will always face a particularly famous character from history. We're getting that literally next time in the next
Yeah.
episode, when we meet Dickens. Charles Dickens is in the
Yeah,
next
mhm.
episode. We go
Yeah.
back to Dickensian London for a
Yes,
bit of a
because
ghost story.
because these episodes do give us a little "what's coming next episode" kind of fun thing, which is
They
like,
do.
I miss that.
They do. Well, let's
Yeah,
let's give a bit of a synopsis for the end
okay,
of the
okay.
world, which is, it's the year 5 billion. and the Doctor and Rose arrive on Platform 1 to journey through time. The sun is about to expand and swallow the Earth, but amongst the alien races gathering to watch, a murderer is at work. And yes, I mean, why is a murderer at work? Because it's interesting, because of egotistical reasons, I suppose,
Yeah.
is why a murderer is at work. But I think the end of the world is such a great blend of really smart sci-fi, because it
Mhm.
does make you think about mortality and
Yeah.
human complacency
Mhm.
and things like that, whilst being the biggest spectacle it could have possibly been on
Oh,
BBC
yeah.
television at the time,
Yeah.
because it has more special effects than any other episode of Doctor Who, I think, until about 2013,
Yes. And
um,
and
which
how much
is
did they have to pay?
wild.
Yes, and how much did they have to pay to license Toxic by Britney Spears? I can only
How much
imagine.
did they have to pay? Yes, exactly. Which is one of several reasons as to why this episode is particularly silly as well.
Yeah.
In its or particularly embraces its the silliness that Doctor Who is capable of
Yeah.
being, with the Doctor just bobbing his head and dancing around, and everybody thinking a old jukebox is an iPod,
I thought
and
yeah.
playing classical music, Tainted Love by Soft Cell
Yeah.
and Toxic by Britney Spears. And it's just,
No.
it's funny. It's actually quite
Yeah.
funny to think about, because this is what we do with history. We can warp it, we can mix it up. It might not
Mhm.
always be 100% accurate, and it draws attention to
Yeah.
that. Um, and it draws attention to everybody, every one of these aliens thinking really that they're so intelligent, they're so great and powerful and know
Yeah.
everything. They're advanced in their civilization,
Yeah.
but they're all kind of idiots to a certain degree. Maybe not the face of Bo. I quite like the face of Bo, and I just think that's because he's probably the best special effect in the
Oh,
entire
yeah,
episode.
it looks really good. That actually looks
I
pretty
really
good.
like the face of Bo.
Yeah.
Although I do like the tree people as well. I think the
Yeah, I mean,
tree
that
people
makeup
look
was
good.
I think all the alien makeup, I think, looked pretty good. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The tree people, what is he called? The Mox of Balhoun, which is that little blue guy
Oh, yeah.
on the cushion.
Yeah.
Um, the Lady Cassandra, who is
Yeah.
probably the most significant part of this episode, as played by, or as voiced, I should say, by
Yeah.
a completely CG character, as voiced by Zoe Wanamaker or Madam Hooch from Harry Potter. Not the last Harry Potter cast member you will see in Doctor Who, Jeannine. I am fairly
Okay.
certain about that.
Great.
You I think this show is going to just be full of
Jam-packed with, yeah, familiar faces.
random characters, random people you have seen in various
Okay.
things,
I'm excited.
whatever that may be,
Yeah.
movies, shows, anything. It is Doctor Who's always been a breeding ground for talent, I think, as well in Britain.
Yeah.
When we get, I know massively significant names have come, as early career moves have been to go
Yeah.
into Doctor
Mhm.
Who. We'll get into later seasons. Andrew Garfield is in episode. Carey
What?
Mulligan,
Yeah.
Daniel Kaluuya,
What?
just to name but a few, are just
Okay.
turn up in episodes, and many, many more. That's
Yeah.
just a tiny little subsection of the big names who are in this particular era. But there's so many. And this is really, I would say, the first one that you get who you would actually semi recognize, because there's
Yes. Oh,
nobody
yeah, her
really
voice
in
is very
Rose.
yeah.
There's nobody
Yeah.
really in Rose, the episode, that you would have
Yeah.
perhaps recognized.
Recognized, yeah. And I think
Although
there's,
I would say that the guy who was the, Clive, who was the conspiracy theorist, like, I know that
you
dude.
would
I
know
know
him
that
from,
dude
like,
from yeah.
other
Like,
UK
I don't
things.
think you would, but I
No.
have seen him in
Yeah.
other things.
Yes, and
Yeah,
if you've watched Harry Potter as much as I think I've watched Harry Potter, then you would recognize that actress's voice immediately
yeah,
as the Madame Hooch
definitely,
actress. Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. She's an interesting old villain, is Cassandra as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and I like that
she's
it's not
probably
I like that
she's
we
the
don't
first.
know who it is. I like that it's this kind of suspects kind of mystery for a bit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a whodunit. She's
Yeah.
the first villain we actually feel like we know personally to a degree. And yes, okay, it's only the second episode, but
Yeah.
the living plastic was an idea of a villain. It was an invasion. It was
Yeah.
this reason. There was a reason behind the invasion that we come to explore. This is much more small scale in the biggest scale episode of
Yeah.
it could have possibly been. The villain itself, the actual conflict itself, is really quite small scale, because it's just one person. She is technically a
Yeah.
person as well, the last
Yes, the
human,
last human. Mm.
although she is a piece of flat skin
Yes,
being
I love
pinned up on a board.
and getting sprayed. I love that Rose calls her a
Moisturize me,
bitchy
moisturize
trampoline.
me.
Yes, I love that Rose calls her a bitchy trampoline. Like that was
She
that was a
is.
good line. Yeah.
It is a good line. I think that's something I can forget about this era as well of Doctor Who is that it's not, it's willing to be a bit kind of not cruel, I suppose, but crude maybe
Yeah.
at
Mhm.
times. Like there's quite a lot of innuendo as well.
Yeah.
Like there's serious flirting going on between the Doctor and Jeeb, the leader of the Tree
The tree
People.
people, yeah, when he, like, breathes on her and she's just like, "Oh, well, thank you, that's very intimate." Like and even, a really sweet moment they share because she ends up kind of looking into him to see what he is, and
Yeah,
once she kind of figures it out, she kind of calls him out on it and says, "It took me a while to figure out what you are, and I couldn't believe it." And he kind of reveals, that he lost everything and she just puts a hand on his arm and I don't know, for a minute I think it's just my mind and seeing Eccleston and not getting too back into like who he was as a doctor yet, but I kind of thought he was gonna have like a PTSD, like harsh reaction to her bringing it up and get defensive or
mm,
something. But the fact that he just his eyes well up with tears and he looks at her and he puts his hand on hers, I was like, okay, this
yeah,
is why I love him. I'm glad it's not what my mind kind of thought it was gonna be. I also like that I've forgotten so much, so it's gonna feel new again watching these episodes. But yeah, I kind of like for whatever reason expected him to have like this harsh defensive reaction to her bringing it up, but the fact that he was like really appreciative of her, comforting him and accepting that comfort. I
yeah,
loved that moment and seeing him really get emotional and see kind of the tears in his eyes, like kind of come down. Ugh, it was a very sweet moment. Yeah,
I get
I
you.
liked kind of the little vibe between the two of them. So it was very sad when she burns up
Yeah. Oh,
into
yeah,
ash.
I mean, absolutely, but, those are the most significant parts, or that is arguably the most significant part of this episode. You forget that, it's quite action-packed to a degree because
Mhm.
there's sabotage at play from Cassandra.
Yes.
We learn it's Cassandra, um,
Yes.
but there's
All these little
sabotage at play for
spiders
to get these
messing
little
up the
spiders and
ship, yeah.
things, these little robot spiders. They are, yeah, as you said, messing up the ship to essentially fry the ship,
Yeah.
um, with watching the sun destroy
Yeah, turning
the
off the
Earth.
shields and the protectors that stop the sun from burning them while viewing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's pretty tense action in when all these shields are being or these shields
Yes,
are
all these
failing, and the
yes,
characters a la
have to
Rose is
manually have to
in
do things.
danger
Yeah, mhm, yeah,
and things like that. It's very tense. I enjoy it. I like it.
mhm,
But I don't enjoy it as much as the intimate moments in this episode.
yeah,
I don't enjoy it as much as, though, again, that further exploration into the Doctor's mentality,
yeah.
that development of he and Rose's bond when they're sharing things with each
Yeah,
other.
and
They
he's
are
telling
coming
her
to
more
know
about
each other
him.
better.
Yeah, mhm.
So I don't know. Do you enjoy it as an action spectacle, or do you view the
Yeah,
action spectacle of it as just what it is, to be showy for the sake of being showy, to show
yes.
to show the viewing
Look what we can
population,
do. Yeah,
oh,
look how
we can
big
do
we
this
can
now.
be. Yeah.
And yes, okay, this was 20 years ago. This is still this is 2005. Okay, as we've
But
said,
still for
the effects
TV. Yeah.
perhaps, yeah, as we've said, the effects can perhaps have not aged
Brilliantly.
incredibly well,
Yeah.
but the point still stands
Mhm.
that 100% they could have done this, and we have to be, I think we have to say the effects of, or the makeup effects, I think, are great. The actual
Yes.
practical
The practical
makeup
stuff
effects are
looks
great.
great. Yeah. Yeah, no, I would say I do enjoy that. I loved the tension of the kind of running around the ship, having to save Rose, having to, he had to go kind of walk through these fans to manually kind of put the shields back up. The loss of the tree lady, but her willingness to sacrifice herself for this kind of greater good is another kind of, draw pushing the point of the show and the good in people and people kind of, uh being kind and doing what they need to do to help others, whether it's going to be a sacrifice or not, and those kinds of things. So we're still getting those points coming across with the action as well. But I
Yeah,
do agree with you. I do prefer those more intimate moments, because I think my favorite part was him with the tree lady. And then at the very end, when he does kind of come off a little bit vengeful, but it kind of calls back to what he said about, things having their time and things needing to end, because he sees, her selfish motivations hurt all of these people. And he absolutely hates to see that she, because of her selfishness, was willing to sacrifice all of these good
yeah,
people. And so, he becomes really hurt by that and is driven by that. And so I loved how powerful that felt, and it's not this kind of big action moment. So yeah, I do prefer the more intimate moments, and like you said, even the moments of him talking to Rose and kind of telling her more about his past. All of those were like my favorite moments of this episode, even with all the kind of bigger things going on.
yeah, yeah. I just think it's important to notice sometimes the context of the behind the scenes things, because that, that can be interesting. There's a reason this
Mhm.
episode was the second episode, and it was okay. Now we're
This is
back
what we're
into
going to be
Doctor Who.
getting. Okay.
Everybody
Yeah.
everybody enjoyed Rose, didn't they? So, or we at least hope everybody enjoyed Rose. We feel like we've introduced that really well. Okay, here's something mad and future
Yeah, we're going
and
to turn it up. Yeah.
absolutely extreme. And then again, I think that's what I love, and we'll obviously get into it next episode of diving into Doctor Who. But I love that the third episode is a celebrity historical, because
Yeah.
that's something that Doctor Who, to my mind, does really well. I think, to be honest, has probably been more focused on that in the new Who era than it was in classic Who.
Yeah, but
Um,
I would think it was maybe like a modern take to kind of pay tribute to what the original kind of conceit of the show
I mean,
was as well.
absolutely. That's, it's a massive element as to why I love Doctor Who, is that we're able to travel in time and,
Mhm.
go back and see these historical settings. And
Yeah,
to be fair, the
and maybe
BBC's
change
always
the
been pretty
context
good.
of them in fun ways.
Possibly, yeah. The BBC's always been pretty good at historical
History,
television
yeah.
anyway. So
Yeah.
um, that has to be said. I think we like these first two episodes, though. I think
Yeah.
to wrap up this first episode of Diving into Doctor Who, though, we need to talk a little bit more about the actual sci-fi technology of what's going on here. The introduction to the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Do we enjoy that? It comes out of nowhere a little bit. It's quite sudden. It is not this, let's go, here is my ship. It's called the TARDIS. This is what it does. Rose just runs into the TARDIS in that first episode and then is
Mhm.
just dumbfounded to
How
find it
big it is, yeah.
as, to find it looking like that. Do we enjoy the visual style of the TARDIS? I know that obviously this is me asking you this, you who has never known a different visual style of the TARDIS, really. But I'm sure perhaps you have seen pictures from later
Mhm.
incarnations of what the TARDIS interior looks like. I personally have always really enjoyed this quite industrial feeling of the TARDIS.
Yeah. Mhm.
But do you like the TARDIS as a concept? We do get a good
Yeah.
deal of explanation of it. We get the acronym, what the acronym means. Do you remember what the acronym stands for?
No, I don't remember what it stands for.
It's time and relative dimension in space.
Ah, okay,
That
okay.
is that is what TARDIS stands for. Do we know why it is a 1950s police box?
No.
Because 1950s police boxes really did exist when Doctor Who first came out, and they genuinely thought that was the best way of making a spaceship that would blend in to the London streets.
Yeah, he does say that because she doesn't even know. Rose doesn't know what that is.
Nobody
So,
knows what
there.
nobody since the 70s has known what a police box is.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
funny
no.
thing is now there was actually a genuine lawsuit that the BBC won over the police in Britain, that the police box was more recognizable as the TARDIS than it was as a police
An actual
box.
thing. Yeah, because I mean, clearly it's not a thing anymore, so why would it be a
No.
problem in conflict with actual police? Yeah, no, I like the concept of it. I like that, I think Americans who see it would kind of equate it to, the red phone booth. So there's a
Well,
familiarity
that's
there
that's
to it.
exactly what it
And
is, yeah. It's
and and
exactly what it
and
was.
I and the iconography of it being, purely a UK thing. So putting that kind of, regional stamp on it with what it is, with the vessel that it is. So I appreciate that. And I love the concept of her kind of running in there and just being awestruck with how big it is inside. And even, there was danger happening outside. And then when it moved, she didn't realize it even moved. And when the door opened, they're in a completely different place, and kind of her being
Yeah,
dumbstruck by that as well. So yeah, no, I love the look of it. I think it plays into kind of this kind of makeshift put together feeling, which kind of images and videos I've seen of the kind of older episodes, that those sets always felt kind of, makeshift put together
yeah,
in this cheapy, endearing way that we kind of talked about at the beginning, and this feels a little bit like that too. And so I love that. It feels like playing pretend almost.
yeah.
So, like being in your treehouse and building something kind of silly like this, like that's what it kind of feels like. So I love the vibe of it.
But it also feels, I think, dark, dingy, a little bit messy,
Mhm.
and maybe a little bit broken,
Yeah.
kind of mirroring the Ninth Doctor in that sense. He's a bit dark, he's a bit messy, he's
Yeah.
definitely
A
a little
little bit
bit broken,
broken. Yeah.
but he can do the job, and he
Mhm.
means well. And
Yeah.
I think I like that his
Love that.
TARDIS
Kind of
encapsulates that.
speaks to that. Yeah.
Yeah. We
Good
obviously
point.
spend much more time in the TARDIS as this season
Yes.
goes on as well, so
Yeah.
that's, we'll get into that when we get into it. We also get the psychic paper being used for the first time in this second episode,
Yeah.
because they're not obviously supposed to be on platform 1 watching the end of the world, are they? But no, the Doctor pulls out his psychic paper. Of course I'm
Paper.
supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Look.
Mhm.
Oh,
Like,
look,
it's my
this is my
invitation right here.
identification.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, yes, it is. Very convenient. Or a great plot device is the psychic paper, because it just whisks
Works
away
for
any.
everything.
It
Yeah.
works for everything. It whisks away any, logic point anybody could
Yeah.
want to make about it, as does the explanation of the TARDIS's language filter,
Oh,
which
yeah, that you'll
gets an
be able to
actual
hear.
explanation
Yes.
in this
Yes.
second episode, which I love. They're all
Yes,
speaking English. No, they're not speaking English. You just hear
you're
English. The TARDIS
yes. It's
messes with your
helping your
brain.
brain transmit it in the language that you can understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually quite love that Rose hates that. What do you mean the TARDIS is
It's
messing
in
with
my
my brain? So
brain. Yeah.
you've messed with my brain without telling me. That's a little bit invasive. I
Yes,
actually
yes.
love that she's kind of offended
Kind of
because she doesn't know what
challenging
to
it, and
say to
yes,
that.
she's not just accepting it or thinking it's cool, she's literally, like, questioning, like, "I don't know if that's a good thing." So,
Yeah,
yeah, Rose is sassy and independent, and we love that, so
she is,
yeah,
but she's also 19. I think we have to remember that Rose is supposed to be 19 years old
okay.
in this, which whenever I'm reminded of that, is always a bit odd because, well, like, yeah, okay, there's elements to her that are 19, but she also looks a good 25, and like that's a significant different type of
I mean,
person.
I had hoped all these seasons of Dawson's Creek would have gotten you used to that, I guess
Well, apparently, we do it in Britain in the 2000s as well.
yes.
We cast far older people to be late teens.
Yes.
And 19's a lot different to 15. Thank you, Dawson's Creek. We don't need these people pretending to be. I buy Billy Piper more as 19 than I ever do James Vanderbeek as
Then
50.
they're supposed to only be 16 and in season
You
3, and
know,
they're
I mean,
so
come
old
on,
looking. Yeah,
come on. There's grey hair on Joshua Jackson's head.
right?
You know, near enough, near enough.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else we would like to say about these first two episodes of Doctor Who? A great reintroduction that they
Yes, I'm
were.
so
I'm
excited.
thoroughly looking
Yeah.
forward to getting back into more because look, it's a rewatch for me as much as it's a rewatch for you. And I think when
Yeah.
we come on to obviously season 2, which is going to be the one you really haven't
Yeah.
seen before. I think we can frame these episodes as much more
But Jeannine hasn't seen.
as much more of a Jeannine hasn't seen, much more
Yeah.
of a me asking you questions about things
Okay.
and having you pontificate as opposed
Okay.
to what we've had here. But I'm thoroughly excited to get further into season 1. We're only going to get better. We're only going to get more of what we enjoyed, particularly from
Yeah.
these couple of episodes. We're getting a celebrity historical next week and the start of
Yay.
a particularly silly two-parter. I think it's a particularly silly two-parter that definitely does star somebody you will recognise. Jeannine,
Okay.
as well.
Okay. I'm
Definitely does
excited.
star somebody you recognise. You might recognise who plays Dickens as well next week. You might do.
Okay.
You might not, but you might do.
Okay.
He's fairly well
No.
known.
Okay. Okay.
But yes, it's very exciting.
Yay.
Anything else to say from yourself?
No, I'm just excited to dive into more. I had a lot of fun with these 2 episodes. Things are coming back to me, and I know there were episodes kind of going into this season that I really love, so I'm just excited to get there too. So,
Okay. I mean, might I ask what they are? Do you remember the specific episodes or
um,
the
I
specific
think the
moments?
one I really liked was the one with the, like, gas mask people.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's a
Yeah.
two-parter.
Yeah.
The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances is the two-parter there. It's
Okay.
very good.
Okay. Yeah.
Very good. Probably the most joyous we ever see the Ninth Doctor, I think, in at the end of that two-parter as well. So it's exciting, very much so. I can't wait for more.
Yay.
I'm just thinking as well, in a couple of episodes' time, I'll be able to do my Dalek impression, which is very exciting as well.
I
Which
think
I
I actually
wouldn't
did it.
spoil for you. I wouldn't spoil for you if you hadn't seen this first season.
Well, yeah,
Dalek.
I think I actually did a Dalek impression in a Schmodown match once.
Why would you have done a Dalek impression in that?
Well,
I don't
I'm
need to know.
Jeannine.
We can have that discussion when we get
Okay,
onto the
okay,
Dalek episode.
okay,
I think
okay,
that'd be
yeah.
exciting.
All right.
But yes, there we go for this first episode of diving into Doctor Who. This will alternate every Monday with Discovering Dawson's Creek on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, subscribe, ding your notification bell here and on the It's a Wonderful Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts as well. Leave your comments on Spotify, rate and review everywhere. If you would like to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, there are links in the description to do that. Or, of course, you can just find us on and across the social medias on the app formerly known as Twitter and on Blue Sky at It's a Wonderful One. Find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at the Purple Dawn with a 3 instead of the E in the because, Jeannine.
3 is the magic number.
On Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at the Purple Dawn. All your doctors are where?
You can find me at Jeannine Bean _ on Twitter, Jeannine Bean on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. And if you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search G9 Design on tpublic.com.
I think it's only right for you to attempt an impression of the Lady Cassandra for today's
Oh,
episode.
no.
Moisturize me. She dies, by the way.
Yes,
if it
she
wasn't
blows
clear,
up.
she blows up because her skin gets too dry.
Dries out.
That's funny.
Yes, it's great. And pieces of her like fly everywhere.
It's a ridiculous effect, especially given that she just literally is a flat piece of skin.
Yes, with the face. A bitchy trampoline. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Bye.